Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Bafun, and this podcast is an extension of my book, also called Listen to Your Footsteps, which is a collection of essays, reflections, and poetry on things like fatherhood, identity and belonging, growing up, creativity, and the lessons learned. The purpose of this podcast is to gain insight and learn from the journeys that others have taken. I explore the worlds of art, culture, design, business, creativity, and life from the perspective of Africans who are contributing to the redefinition of the continent and who we are. Welcome. I'm joined by Sthandiwe Kgoroge. She's an actor, a mother, a wife, I guess a style icon. But for me, I think more importantly is you've been part of significant productions over the last, 20 years? 20 plus years.
Because my son is 23, so definitely.
Yeah.
20.
So first of all, welcome.
Thank you, Kojo. Thanks for having me.
My first question, which is very left field.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you went to University of Natal.
Yes.
Durban or Maritzburg?
Both. Junior degree, Pietermaritzburg. Honors, Durban campus.
Which year?
Kojo, please. My guy.
You mustn't be afraid.
I'm on the records.
You mustn't be afraid of your age.
I don't want to go there.
Do you know why I'm asking? Because I was at University of Natal, Durban.
No way.
From 92 to 94.
I was definitely there. We were there same year. Do you know Sam? Sam September.
Yeah, I know Sam.
Remember when they were doing all those? I think they were called
Vibe 2000.
Listen, I remember. So that was our parting thing with was it Westville? Remember Westville?
Yeah.
Natal Tech. That was the vibe.
So the reason why I asked you that question is because I was reading that and I'm like, wait.
We were on campus.
We were in the same place around the same time. Because I was at University of Natal, and I knew about more the music department.
Sure.
So people like Andile Yenana and Concord in Kabide. They played at our bar, for those of us who lived in Res on a Friday night.
Yeah, where did you stay?
I stayed Albert Lutuli Towers for a year, and then I was in Anglo. I was in Anglo Block for 2 years.
I stayed at St. Stephen's, the doctor's rest, because I couldn't get a place to stay on campus. So I stayed down there with the medical students.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why I was asking the question, because I was just like, wait a minute, we were actually in the same space.
Were you with Dr. Tomaselli? Were you part of the media department?
No, I did economics.
Oh.
I did a BCom.
Get out.
That's my background. I did BCom. Economics, marketing, and business administration. Those are my majors.
That's a profile on its own. Who would have known?
And then when I finished my undergrad, first of all, everybody's like, it's a 4-year degree. And I'm like, but the prospectus says 3 years.
Yeah.
And then when I finished, I moved back home to work. So everybody's like, why don't you stay and do an honors?
Sure.
And I was like, I had a job offer at Unilever.
Yes.
So I went through the graduate placement program.
Students from campus went.
I couldn't. It was taking forever for me to get a work permit. So it took I was back home 8-9 months and I still wasn't getting my work permit. I was working with my father. My father's like, now for you to leave. He had started a new IT company. He had started other businesses. Sure. So for me to now then leave. Yeah. So I emailed Unilever and said, Askis, I know I've signed a contract.
Is this Ghana? Home was going back to
Lesotho.
Ghana. Lesotho, okay.
Yeah, so Ghana, I've never lived in Ghana.
Oh, yeah. That's more so it's Lesotho, it's
Ghana,
it's German.
Yeah, and then SA. But going back to you.
Yes.
Was it always drama? You went and studied drama. Was it always drama?
Always drama. Because our campus in Pietermaritzburg, the drama department you couldn't just do drama like Durban campus, where you could be part of the speech and drama department only. There, and I chose Pietermaritzburg because my dad was a lecturer on campus. So if one of your parents is a lecturer, obviously the child doesn't pay. Yeah. Because ideally, I wanted to go to Durban campus because I wanted to be away from home.
That's where the action was.
That's where the action was. I wanted to stay on campus and experience that instead of traveling or going to school with my dad every single day on campus. So I did a BA, majored in drama and sociology.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your father lecturing?
Theology.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the head of department of theology there.
Why drama?
I've always wanted to perform. It's the weirdest thing, because I know every time we did interviews those days when I was on Generations, it would be, so if you hadn't done this, I'll always literally have to think about it. I'll say, well, if really, push comes to shove, I could have been a social worker because I love working with children, hence sociology, because anything to do with, people. I would have been maybe an academic, really loved immersing myself in books, maybe taking the anthropology route as well. But it was just always drama, because we stayed in Canada for a few years when I was a kid, for about 5 years. All I ever did in the Sunday school was, can we just do this? Can we act it? Because I think I'll understand it better if Mary and Joseph are just acted, So it was like, oh, yes, Sthandiwe, it's okay. How do you want to do it? So it was always one of those things where I just wanted to always perform.
What was the value of that? Like there must have been an immense value in being taken out of, or at least being exposed to a different space and a different perspective, even that young. Because if you were here, it was still, we're talking, before 94.
Yeah.
So if you're young, maybe that, yes, you'd have been exposed, but just the perspective, the lens.
Definitely. I was born in Ohio. My dad was studying at Ohio State University, came back to South Africa when I was 3. So I don't really remember much about the States. Lived KwaMaphumulo, where my dad was teaching. There's a beautiful theological seminary there. And he then went to Canada when I was 6. That's what I really remember. So imagine all is KwaMaphumulo is like rural KwaZulu-Natal. Beautiful, There's still amabhinqa. Amabhinqa are people who still walk around in their traditional garb, literally everything out. It's beautiful like that. It's just the mix of Maphumulo is amazing, because you've got a lot of lecturers from Sweden, Norway, Germany, Bulukwane and Zim, and then suddenly you go to Canada. Ice skating, hockey, the life. Cool. The kid comes first. Everything is amazing. 10 years old, back to Maphumulo. And the first thing I said when I met her, we went to Greytown a couple of weeks after we arrived, and I saw this beautiful little girl, and I could see she's probably doing gymnastics. And I said to her, hey, are you doing gymnastics? A white girl. Because I did gymnastics when we stayed in Canada. She got a fright. Like just looking, she probably couldn't even understand. She probably spoke Afrikaans. Her dad grabbed her and just said something to me in African. That and my dad then had the talk. Like, guys, things are different now. We're in South Africa. We're like, my brothers were like, take us home, take us back. We're not from here. And my mom was like, oh, yes, you are. Star should rather say that because she was born in the States, but you guys, you were born here, so, and then they had that talk with us. My brothers were 13, my elder brother was 15, so you can imagine.
That must have been a heavy shift.
A heavy shift. They were the cool kids at school, everyone, because they were in sports. Zama, oh, are you Zama's sister? You Lee's sister? Then suddenly, and so it was quite a heavy shift. That's the word. Definitely a heavy shift.
So with studying the drama, what did you see? What was your vision of, or your image of it once you were done studying? So you go in there, you're studying it. So it's not just like in the early days of the industry where it's like, as stuff started to open up, people go, I can act.
Exactly.
Like everybody can act. Like for you, it's different. You studied it. It's about the craft.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you when you were done studying?
Broadway. Because obviously theater in Canada was a big deal. Everyone spoke about if someone came from the States to in Canada, and my parents would go, because obviously we were kids, we were, but they would come back and tell us, Harry Belafonte is in Canada coming with Mayor Makeba, and they're performing. And my mom dressed up and went and watched that. There was a beautiful big Canadian show where Mom Miriam was performing, So at that time, obviously it wasn't music, it was being on a world stage and just performing. Definitely stage. More than TV, because I didn't have a lot of reference. TV was obviously there already in Canada, but for some, even when we arrived in South Africa, I think 80, 81, TV was just starting to come in.
Yeah.
I don't remember when it
I don't
started,
remember.
yeah.
I think it was,
but I know we watched
like late
it
70s, early 80s. Yeah.
But I remember in Guamapumul, in the area where we were living, the Mkizes had a TV. So everyone went to Guamkize to go and wait and just watch. And we paid something, all these little kids just waiting to watch TV whenever it came on, even if it was just the news or whatever, just to watch TV.
And at the same time, but there was no reference point, because
there was no reference point.
It's still a challenge today, but it was worse even then, where everything we're watching, everything we're watching was, because I remember in Lesotho, the television was SABC. And I don't speak Afrikaans. I never spoke Afrikaans. I liked moving pictures.
Sure.
But you'd see these things, Rabubi, all of a sudden, and dubbed, it would be dubbed over, what's it? Steve Austin, the Man van Staal.
The Man van der Staal.
That's all I remember. And I'd watch, not understanding.
Yeah. Imagine me, I had seen Steve Austin in Canada, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Then you come here, and in KwaZulu-Natal, it's dubbed. How? Steve Austin is now saying, the man van the hout or the cap the hout. He can speak this as well. So
it was theater. That was.
Yeah. And then obviously late 80s here, you'll remember in KZN we had Senzegile. That was a big TV show called Senzegile. There was the guy with the funny ears. I don't know if you guys had it, because I know every province had it dubbed into their language. We called it Sok Edge. He was sort of like half man, half monkey.
Yes, I remember. I don't remember the name.
I don't remember where it was
I remember
from.
having
Probably a
seen
Chinese
it.
show.
Yeah.
But then I started really being more adamant that, okay, I want to go into TV. But that's literally when I was maybe high school. Yeah.
What does a degree in drama look like?
A degree in drama is very important, because a lot of people think it's only about performance. As much as, yes, there's the performance part, but there's also the part that I specialized in called drama in education, which means using drama to teach, which means you could work, if you had to broaden your studies, you could work as a psychologist, using your drama and apply drama as a method. Because we as varsity students worked a lot with psychologists, or the psychology students and the department, where they would try and find out maybe at the clinics what happened to maybe children who were abused. One, there's the language barrier, but two, these are babies who are probably molested and they're not able to really articulate what just happened to them, but the parents would bring them. So they'll use us as drama students through play to try and figure out what happened. So we're playing, we're rolling on the floor, there are dolls lying around, and then slowly the baby trusts and is able to say, uncle, touch me like this. I'm going to touch you also like this. And I'm going to touch, don't tell anyone. Don't tell, and they're recording and they're able to say, oh, this is what happened. Because through play, a child is obviously in a safe place and is able to, without feeling watched and judged and, feeling under pressure. And then they're able to express themselves in terms of what happened. And it's
like, I realized I did what we often do, which is, the minute you think of a degree in drama, you boil it down to
acting. Yeah.
And
so
actually not going beyond that.
Yeah. Because then there's the costume department, which is also like quite a field. Now we see how important the costume department in fashion. Like I look at people like your June Ambrose, who went to drama school and specialized in costume. And this the art department, which is your guys who were so good with stage creation and stage design, who are now art directors, in whether working in the field of advertising or in film, whatever. They are the guys who are sort of like mini architects, coming up with the whole look of everything. Those are guys who were at drama school. So
I was actually talking to somebody that I know but I won't say his name because I'm still trying to get him on the podcast.
Okay.
And he's been a well-known makeup artist for like media.
Yes.
And I bumped into him recently. I hadn't seen him in a while. And he's doing film. And talking about exactly what you're saying is like, he has to read the script. He has to spend time with the director to get the vision.
Absolutely.
he does some stylings. It's not just a, putting on makeup and making it look pretty.
Yeah.
It's like,
you're an artist yourself, so you're also directing.
And the era.
Absolutely.
What makeup did they have, or what look did they have in a particular era?
Look at Shaka Ilembe, for instance. That takes a lot of research. You can't just rock up, whether you're part of the hair department or costume department. So much research, because you can't say this is gorgeous because it's a wedding scene. We're going to add beads. What if beads weren't there at the time? Then obviously there's the whole what we call artistic freedom, where yes, you stick to the era, but again, you just add your own touches and you just say, obviously this is now reimagined. So we'll just add things that we know that in terms of academically, if someone had to say, no, but beads arrived with the Portuguese in late 1800s. Why are you putting beads? And then they'll say, no, but we're just doing, practicing artistic freedom here. But you have to know it first before you can even play around with it.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of understanding. What did they wear? What was the use of skin, or of what was the relationship to the animals? Were they being eaten, or they were livestock being kept for trade? So all those things. So the hair department, the wardrobe department, it's very important. Hair, so important. How people played with the hairstyles. What did they use? What mud was used? How was it washed off? Why did they use particular mud to hold hairstyles up? So that all falls within the spectrums of studying a whole drama degree. And then you just choose what you really like. But you can do these other fields or I don't know what to call them if you wanted to.
I tend to jump around a lot.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, you're talking about that, and I'm thinking about your relationship with fashion.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it a segment of fashion, but a feel of fashion.
Yeah.
Has that relationship always been there? And, it felt like you started to manifest it. There was a particular point in time where it's, we saw you in one way, and then it feels like there was a particular point in time where you just like, okay, do you know what? Actually, I'm bringing this in and I'm expressing it and I'm putting it out.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think for me, I've always had a relationship with clothes, right?
Okay.
In terms of on campus in Maritzburg, I was that girl selling coats, and so I knew these students. These guys come from out of town. They don't know where to access. I'll get the bales. We call them bales that time. My mom would get these bales because she was a nurse. She'll get bales from at the harbour in Durban, where it's now the Bat Center. She'll get these bales, and if it just says coat, you can't open. You just take. If it says coat, if it says children's clothing, you just, So I'll save money, and I started asking my mom to also get me a bale, especially for the coats, because winter's coming up in Pietermaritzburg, it's freezing. And then, so I started being that person when people say, "Yo, Star, now I've got money. What do you have?" I'm like, "I'll bring you something," And then I was just always in clothing for some reason. I was always going to what they call Guadunusa. I hate using that word, at the MTN taxi rank. I was always that person when I came up here for Generations to discover thrifting, take the stuff to the laundromat in Melville, get it all cleaned up and start selling. And then I started making my own stuff while I was on Generations. The wardrobe head of wardrobe was so kind. Was like, "I love the stuff that you wear. Why don't you dress yourself with some of the stuff? Bring me what you've got." And she'll buy some items for the twins, for Zolega or Zinzi. And she'll be like, "Don't forget, it's two different people. So you have to really make it, different, whatever." And then I started beading and making a lot of my own jewelry with my best friend Nandipa. And then she passed away in a car accident soon after I got married. And then that for me was just too painful. Okay. And I just never did the accessory range again. That was called Black Powder. And then I just continued with the clothing, started working in a factory in town, acting on Generations. And I'm a full-on have seamstresses and a factory that so it's like you rent a section of this huge floor. There's 5-6 different designers and all these seamstresses, and you can all share. And this is the time of Stone Cherry and Sun Goddess, David Lale coming up. So, and then that's why eventually I had the shop in Melville Poetry Museum. I was like, okay, I like this thing, And when I left Generations, I just concentrated fully on the shop. And things happened where I felt like Melville was becoming what it is now. And slowly I just I can't, because every day you get there, there's just something has happened. Whether, the wall, the glass, the front wall, front glass has been, someone was trying to break in or something. And I just thought, this is not the Melville that I moved into, where it was just arty and beautiful, a whole bunch of people who loved that whole area of Melville. I see a lot of it happening now at 44 Stanley. 44 Stanley is that now, in terms of just this safe space of just a beautiful arty hangout. So, and I closed shop after 4 years.
It's interesting. I mean, it's like the evolution of a city. And that's the fascinating thing about this city. I mean, you talk about the spaces, for example, in town, because there were a couple of design and fashion districts in the middle of town, where everybody kind of started out, and then gradually people would move out. Or if they're still there, it's not as easy as it used to be. And you'll find they're just there to produce.
Sure.
Because if I want to buy, like the retail side is elsewhere.
Absolutely. Because safety as well.
And that's a city. I mean, I remember first coming here and I was doing stuff in Yeovil. Like that's where I started, right?
Me too.
So you start off in Yeovil, and then, like you're saying, there was the Melville era when literally Friday night, Saturday night. If you were arty, there was. I mean, I used to go for poetry on a Sunday night. But I go party on a Friday night.
Where did you go? At the Wine Drop. Have you been to the Wine Drop in Yeovil? Remember the Wine Drop? There was a raga thing happening upstairs, and then Wine Drop was like.
I only went upstairs.
You only went upstairs.
I only went upstairs, and then I mean, 90 was it? I think it was 99, 2000. I stayed in Yeovil for a bit, and so there was a supper club that a guy used to run, and there was raga nights. In Times Square, because obviously with poetry,
I ate there every day.
But before I moved to Joburg, there was a club. I think Table was involved in it. So there was Piccadilly's?
Yeah, Piccadilly's.
There was Piccadilly's, and across underground, there was I think it was Edgar's Club. There was this small club there when I used to come up for the weekends.
Yeah, wow.
I used to sometimes pitch up there.
I remember Piccadilly's because across there was also a Cayenne. That beautiful, it was more jazzy. So I also stayed just across the street. So it was Berea. And I'll just walk into, because there was the OK supermarket, and I'll have my lunch at Piccadilly at the town square. It was exactly around the same time, because I came up here though, 98.
Okay, yeah. So I was coming to Joburg every 2-3 weeks because I did business here. I had a shop selling hair products, which not many people know. So I used to buy my stock in Joburg. And then I had a relationship with Amka, who did your Starsoft Raw, Soft and Free. But I used to buy salon equipment as well.
Jabal Stone was also in Yeovil. Remember
but I used to buy my equipment in Newtown. Before, when it was just the Market Theatre, the Museum of Africa, before Shivava and all of those other places came in. So I used to drive up at least every 2-3 weeks to buy stock. And so I partied here.
So cool. While I did, you're like, let me just party.
No, I used to pitch up on a Friday, buy my stock.
Wow.
Park the car at a friend stayed in Hillbrow. A Bostonian. So I parked the car stocked with boxes. And then we just party, and then Sunday I drive home.
Love that.
But I mean, the city, if we look at it, like there've been, those Yeovil, there was
Berea, Hillbrow,
there was Market Theatre, and that whole space with Electric Workshop, which eventually became Baseline, Shivava later on, all these spaces, and then there was like the Rosebank period where everything was happening in Rosebank.
Definitely.
And I guess when you've been in a city for a long time, it's interesting to map our shared histories by the evolution of the spaces that, like, we were in the same tertiary spaces, but we never knew,
Absolutely.
right? And we're in the same spaces in the city, without really kind of knowing each other.
Wow.
So how did Yizo happen? Because it feels like that was your breakout.
That was definitely.
And I mean, it's Yizo. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's ever been, well, not ever been, but because it was in a way the first that kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Generations had its space, but Yizo was different. And also at the time, like, we're talking about explosion of Kwaito, YFM, blockchain culture, like all these things that were happening at the same time, and then Yizo came in to form part of that
cultural movement.
The cultural movement. How did that come about?
Because those days of shooting Generations, you would shoot, and then there'll be like 3 months or 4 months of doing nothing, because then those episodes will only show after edits, probably like 5 months later. None of this in 3 weeks. You just see something you just shot now type of thing. So it was between that Generations break for me, and I got audition. And actually, it wasn't even a break. Let me just be honest. So I got fired. I came up here to do Generations for, came beginning of 98, I think March. Yeah, first week of March. Got up here, so excited, suitcases and everything. And and I did Zolega, the one twin. And then 3 months later, they said, March, April, May, absolutely May. They said, well, look, we don't really know how to write for this character. We think we just got a bit ahead of ourselves. So we're so sorry. So we're not going to be able to keep you. So we're writing you out. Guys, what do you mean? I came up here for this job, So I spoke to Zam. I'm very close to Zamagosi. He was on set with me because he was also acting on Generations. I was like, my guy, I'm going back home, and I've, it's been a celebration star, gets this role in Joburg, and I'm now going back. He's like, no, you're not. Come, let me introduce you to my agent. And took me to Parkhurst, to Penny Chatris, to her house. She used to use her cottage as her agency. We met, and she says, and you just came at the right time, because there's a show. It's called Yizo. And I don't know much about it, but it sounds great. And maybe you want to go for that audition. Literally, if I joined Penny Chatris on Friday, on Monday was the audition for Yizo.
Wow.
Went to Highlands North, where Dibucho Mahlatsi was sitting, Angus Gibson. I'm intimidated. I'm like, oh man, there's a whole bunch of people. Auditioned for the character of Zoe Qele, the teacher who comes from varsity. She's teaching English and whatever. And we just literally vibed on the day with the two of them. It was like no one else existed. They're like, okay, try this. I was like, guys, I am this. I love English. I love this, and I was wearing these clocks and jeans, and they're like, even these clocks, everything. She's so, she's like this. And that's how Yizo happened. And we started shooting end of the following month, so probably June. Yeah, because it was freezing in Davidton where we were shooting in the township. And that was it. We had glimpses of it as actors where we're like, we think this thing is great. But others were like, hey, I don't know. But I think it's too out there. There were actors who felt like it's a bit too maybe vulgar as well, but then we'll have that conversation with Dibucho Mahlatsi. He's like, isn't that good? Because isn't that what really happens? Because everything that we're doing here is based on research on schools and what's happening in the township schools. And everyone's like, actually, you're right. So it also, I loved how inclusive they were. But they were aware that we were young. Yes, I was, because we were all sort of basically the same age, even with the ones who played students as well. But everything was just so inclusive. You could suggest something now. You said, no, people don't talk like that. But I remember this is set in the northern part of Joburg. So the lingo would be like, oh, like what? Let's go, So there was just User was just the most extraordinary time, and we shot it for probably just 2 months, but it felt like we were at the school of user for a year, because going there every single day felt like coach, put me in. Everyone was excited to be there.
They were visionaries.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Because to do that, to particularly also that time, if you look at history, you just look at that moment. It's the first people to do something. It's Chabi and Wandi going, we're going to create a streetwear brand.
Like, call it Lotion culture.
And nobody else has done that. Like, it's the white people going, we're going to create a youth radio station and this is the music we're going to play.
Sure.
With all of that stuff happening at the time, but it still needed somebody to take that step and take that risk.
Absolutely. And remember, even Parliament discussed user. They're like, what is this? Get it off the screens. This is just going to taint the youth and mess up in terms of... That's why a lot of people weren't allowed to even watch it. I have a lot of people saying, oh, thank God for Netflix. Now we can watch user. But literally because they say at that time they weren't allowed because parents were scared.
That's interesting because I don't know. Like I know it's available. I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But I watched it in the moment. Like I waited every week and watch it every week.
There's something about that.
And for me, it's tied to the time, the energy, how I saw myself, how I felt about.
Wow.
And I'm not from the township.
Yeah.
Like, I'm from Maseru.
Yeah.
With its own struggles, but also with privilege, right? But having some understanding, of the space, like people who talk like my friends, who sounded like my friends, the music they listen to is the music I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And
wow.
so for me, it was one of those, with certain things, I try not to go back because I've realized that when I do, it's not necessarily going to take me back there because I'm a different person now.
Absolutely.
And while I may have found that cool, now I'm old enough to know that actually that's dodgy. like really, actually that is really problematic.
Yes, exactly. And I guess now your eye is more sophisticated in terms of technically as well, right? So you might even look at things, you're like, I don't want to look at... Because now I'm noticing maybe that in terms of sound.
Yeah.
Maybe that in terms of performance. Or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because now you're looking with a bit of a more mature and,
But it's like showing a child something that was shot even 10 years ago. I mean, my kids are still young. Well, 16 and 12. And my daughter will look at something and I'll just go like, that's not even CGI.
Yeah.
Like, that looks so fake. That looks so fake. And it's like, because you computers do all of that. They had to make the hand with the nail sticking out of it in our time.
Yeah. Wow.
How, so you're talking about, for example, in generations, and that's the part of the industry I think most people don't get.
Yeah.
Is often you shoot and are paid. And by the time something comes onto the screen and is popular, that money was spent 6 months ago.
Absolutely. You have no cent to show.
Yeah. And so, I worked at an actors agency for a while, and it's like, you're only as good as your next job.
Sure.
Not even your last job,
No,
because
for
your last
real.
job was so long ago.
Yeah.
And you went and married a man who's also an actor.
Yeah.
So
the struggle.
So how have the two of you navigated?
Sure.
How have you navigated, raising a family, building a life, living a life, right?
Yeah.
How have you navigated that?
I'm a very, what's the word? My faith is very important to me.
Okay.
So I really do believe most of it has to do with the grace of God, because otherwise, because Tony and I look at the kids and we're like full on human beings. One is at varsity, the other one matric. The baby, she's doing first year high school. Oh, we're still calling the baby first year high school. Like full on family that
and you've raised them, you've put them to school, you've clothed them.
How? And we've been very lucky. And I think what we did early on in our careers, we said, let's learn to direct. Right. So we both were trained on sitting. Sitting was very big in terms of really
I remember when Hlomla did his first one, and it was a big deal then.
And a big deal, and your friends will be like, yo, you'll see Hlomla Tandala's name is like, wow, now he's directing. And big ups to Gray Hoffmeyer and his team, because they were able to identify certain actors, and they'll approach you, be like, look, do you want to continue acting, or because we identify you, because maybe you know how Hlomla is. He'll be like, no, I think I would shoot this scene like this. I would do it like this. They'll be like, actually, maybe there's something here about training this person as a director. Tony, same thing. Me, I was also like me. I wasn't aware that I was being big mouth, but whatever. The next thing they said, look, do you want to continue acting, or can we train you as a director? And I trained as a director on a sitting, which was amazing, because it now empowers you, and you're not just an actor. You can now, if days are dark, and we know this industry, so many days can be dark, and you can say, hey, put yourself up. Can I come and direct? I know you guys are doing the series. Like I went to Quizzical. They were doing Intersections, and I directed some episodes for Quizzical, right? So I think that's what always helped Tony and I, that we always were these actors, but we also are also like pushing the directing thing, always trying to get a script out there. And I'm really now at my ripe old age, really trying to get more in terms of writing, because I see that the power, I think, more of storytelling always belongs more to the first person who told it, you know, because I think there's so many ideas that I've always wanted to do, but you can't wait until someone else comes up with it and might not even cast you in it. And you're like,
yeah, because I mean, right? I would have seen, I see you there already.
Bless you. Thank you.
In terms of how you view the world, how you interact with the world, how you tell stories. And I think if we're deliberate about it, so something as simple as Instagram.
Sure.
I see the stories and what you post.
Yeah.
Even if you're not doing it, you're just sharing, right? Whereas somebody else may just look at the surface of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the directing thing I get.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually telling stories, and I think something you said, like you've always been interested in clothes.
Yeah.
So you didn't say fashion. Yeah. You said, I used the word fashion, and you very politely corrected me and went clothes.
Yeah.
Because you tell stories through the clothes that you share and the clothes that you interact with.
Sure. Absolutely. And the thread is there. You've said it. Storytelling. Whether it's storytelling through directing, storytelling through writing it, storytelling through clothing. Because you remember, even my label, Poetry Museum, had a very strong vintage influence.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it doesn't mean if things were worn in the 50s, 60s, we can't reimagine them now. So I'll wear a T-shirt from Stone Cherry, Smart Tata, or Drum, and I'll rock it with the Poetry Museum vintage inspired thing, and wear it with chucks. I laugh. And for me, that's a story, you know. And I believe everything has to do with your own influence in terms of who you are, your upbringing. So you've got influence of Lesotho, you've got influence from your parents, Ghana, Germany, and that eventually it talks to who you are now.
Yeah.
Still, because I think you're very much creative, you know, who takes different routes of the creative, you know, whether a journalist or, you know, but for me, story always has to do with my upbringing and all these different influences of having lived in different parts of the world, having a father who was an academic and a mom who was a nurse, and the people we interacted with on a daily, adults who came to the house all the time, and what they wore forms so much part of, you know, I wasn't aware that I'm like thinking, wow, she's just walking barefooted and looking amazing, you know? And then now I'm like, wow, that was actually people living. Yes, some obviously it wasn't a choice. They literally, they probably couldn't even afford to buy a pair of shoes. But I just saw so much beauty in most of these things that a lot of people, I know my friends even at high school, but like, Star, everything for you is beautiful. but it is, you know, because I really just saw so much beauty. So the thread for me, when I look at it, I think storytelling has always been in all the different genres or spheres of my life as a creative, but storytelling has always been the thing. I'm trying to tell a story.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. I delve into their journeys, the decisions they've taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the conversation takes us. How do you approach a role? So, I mean, you were talking earlier about how you are fascinated by process.
Mm-hmm.
I am the same. I'm fascinated by craft and how people do what they do.
Yeah.
I'm going to add on to that question. So I want a sense of kind of how you approach a role.
Mm-hmm.
And if also that has evolved, because we don't want to talk about your age, but you're now getting the roles where you're the
mamzo.
Yeah, you're getting Uma, or, and you're getting those roles. And I want to get a sense of how your process and the craft has evolved.
It has definitely evolved because I think there was some arrogance of coming straight from varsity, going into the field. There was this this is what we do. We do warm-ups. We prepare you put your role on the floor, the character breakdown, and you go over it, and you're like in this Zen thing of like, please don't disturb because I'm getting into character. That was just arrogance. like really, But now there's more, and thank God for access to information, because there's more research involved in terms of going back to the academic teachings of, let's say, do you do method acting, or you just really research a role and use yourself as your first point of reference. So let's say I just played a character now on Your Christmas that's on Netflix where I play a granny, right? And I loved it. And I just used a certain, what's the word? Not movements. When it's not personality traits. I like the word
gestures,
and mannerisms. That's the word. Mannerisms of my own granny, right? So maybe then we felt like, because our teaching would say, don't use too much of yourself. That's like cheating, because that's the easiest place to fall back on. But what else do I know? And why not, if that forms part of my observation of people, and part of that observation is my own grandmother, my own mother, how she moved and how she interacted with her grandkids, So that's what I know, and that's part of what I've referenced. So that forms now very much part of my research.
Okay.
I just played a character now. We went to the Toronto Film Festival for Death of a Whistleblower. Okay. It's out on Amazon Prime. She's a baddie. Even there, I was like, man, I hope if I get this role, I really hope I get it, because I've always played a lot of soft, gentle mother hen type of characters. And this one, I was like, it could have been written for a guy, because she's the head of the military and she's corrupt and, she's hardcore. And I was like, I'm an actor. I can do this. I hope they don't see me as Usta, who's played this character before, to think maybe she won't be able to pull this type of a character off. So that also took a lot of me just watching movies. And I'm watching Al Pacino. I'm watching, characters, guys, or and I'm just watching in terms of what else and how others have played those similar type of roles. And then I'm like, okay, I'll add my own spin, obviously, because I'm a female. She loves beautiful things. She's soft, but still she's a hard character in terms of her personality. She's just one of those people. So there, obviously, and then you make your decision in terms of, okay, this is how she speaks, this is how she walks, this is her pace, this is how she, but you try to be more informed with little traits that you've picked up along the way and researched maybe as well.
It sounds like you're having a lot more fun with it these days.
More. Definitely. I've always been that person watching a DVD or a movie. I can't wait. I couldn't wait for the behind the scenes, because I want to see what's the process. How did this actor or this director say, okay, this is the cast I'm putting together. This was their process. the mess up, how someone maybe got hurt on set and we never see it when we watch the movie because the person was so in the moment, So I love the process. Yeah.
I was always fascinated when I realized that Samuel L. Jackson changes the way he walks for every character.
See?
And I remember it was just years ago where somebody I think, one of those things where you see it and you just can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So then you spend the first couple of minutes just going,
just watching.
Oh, there's the walk.
There's the walk. Yeah. Love it. Love him.
You and Tony acted across from each other in Long Walk to Freedom.
Yes.
How did you navigate that?
Literally, my role there, which was so sad because Mama Albertina Sisulu was such a powerful character.
Absolutely.
And the whole time, I'm sure they thought, shame, she just wants more screen time. I was like, guys, this person is so amazing and so powerful, but I feel like she's not there. If I had 3 lines there, I had a lot. I was basically not there. Some people were like, oh, by the way, yes, man, I saw you walking next to Walter, But so I guess Tony and Idris, they were like the leads.
Yeah.
So it was like, Tony's there. And I treated him like that, in terms of just respect. And once Tony and I were on set, because we also just did a beautiful little short film. I can't talk about it much because literally we're doing some reshoots next week. Even there, Tony was like, you're so serious on set, star. It's like, you don't know me. Because literally, my guy, you're an actor as well. So, once I see him as, it's Tony, it's my husband, let me just quickly grab this moment. Let's discuss this about the kids. It's going to throw him.
It'll seep into both of you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So we have to be a bit uncomfortable with each other on set because in this instance, we don't really know each other.
But I can see you being the one, to enforce it. And Tony being
what's up? Just chill, start. Don't be so serious. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Do you still do stage? Do you still do theater?
Man, I'm dying to do theater. I have not done theater since I got it. The last theater performance I did was directed by Mam Gcina Mhlophe.
Yeah.
And it's her book, Have You Seen Zandile? And she was even asking me recently, like, should we revisit? Obviously now, if you were Lindy with the young character, you might just be now the mom or the granny. But I was like, please, can we? Because I'm dying to do theater. And I think, which is a sad thing about the industry sometimes, there's an element of, if they don't see you like that, it's really hard to get into, I get asked that so many times by directors and who do stage, be like, oh yeah, so you do theater, like, but it's going to happen.
I guess it's also the struggles of each space.
Yeah.
Theater has its history and it still struggles, I believe, and then the perception of, for example, you're in a soapy.
Yeah.
Are you really an actor?
That is
right?
Actually, yeah.
It's like, are you really an actor?
Yeah.
Although for me, the funny thing is that most of you that I know, there is that respect to craft, and it's not about, it's doing what kind of makes sense in terms of your life.
Yes.
But it's not placing anyone above the other. Because the reality is that also the industry in this country is small.
Yeah.
So if you want to live a life, you have to kind of grab it, as long as it doesn't compromise, you grab at everything that's available.
Yeah. I mean, we all know theater really, it's poorly funded. So it's not something you can do full on, but it's something that I always say it's important for every actor to do. I wish we were like American actors. You hear so-and-so, they're off. They're not available because they're just not doing Broadway. And I know like your Kevin, what's his name? Not Kevin Costner. Kevin, what's his name? He did Usual Suspects.
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey. You're like, where's Kevin Spacey? I don't see. Oh no, because he's now artistic director for some theater company, and apparently that's what he does in between. And apparently there's so many of them who do that.
Denzel has done
Viola
enough.
Davis, yeah, they just go off do a bit of theatre and come back because it's important for the craft. And nothing keeps you there and keeps you sharp like theatre does because of the immediacy of the genre. You get to see Kujo sitting in front row. If you're just doing a disaster, his look is like, what the flip is Star doing now? What is this? You know? So you like, flip, okay, tomorrow I'm going to up my game. I'm going to do this, right? So that's the beautiful thing about theatre. You have so many moments to correct. Once you're a film or TV, everything is it's quick. It's the pace, even if it's a film where normally they'll shoot one beautiful scene for a whole day, but still it's people's time. You can't say...
there's also enough time in edit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can do everything in that one scene and get it right, and then get it right in inverted commas. And then when they're editing, it's like, actually, we're 45 minutes over.
Yeah.
I think we can do without that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, all of that is gone.
Absolutely. On stage, you're there. Everything is there. If you forget your lines, hopefully the audience doesn't see. Only your cast members will be able to cover you and cover you at that moment. But the adrenaline of being on stage, unmatched.
The immediacy of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of response, in terms of feel, in terms of energy.
Yeah. It's what I hear musicians say they feel when they're on performing. That's what happened.
I used to do poetry many years ago.
Yeah.
And it was that. It was, although I'm not as comfortable with it as most people, like I could do without it.
Why?
Yeah, I did the get up on stage thing because at the time, that was the only way to get your poetry heard. Like ideally, I would like to just put it in a book and you can read it in your own time. And I mean, Ayob, who's now producing for me on the podcast, we met on the poetry scene. And he remembers lines.
Wow.
He remembers everybody's lines.
Wow.
And I would forget my own lines on stage. Yeah. I've always been very good at, the one thing I'm good at was I could forget a line and pick up.
Yeah.
Pick up somewhere where it made sense.
Sure.
So the audience wouldn't see. But I'd have him sitting front row with googly eyes, look at me like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Which
didn't necessarily help.
Yeah.
And then also I always performed with a mic stand.
Yeah.
And that was my protection.
Sure.
That was my barrier between me and the audience. So
if they had to take off the mic and just do a lapel, you were going to be a bit...
Yeah. So I mean, I've done that emceeing and stuff, but still... My energy is this.
Yeah.
So, and I was talking to an actor recently, and I was saying to him, I was talking to Aubrey, boy, and I was saying to him,
Aubrey.
I think the reason why I have so much respect for the craft of acting is because I went through a couple of experiences where I realized I'm not an actor. Maybe deep down inside.
Yeah.
But in terms of the list of things that I'm trying to do with my life, like I work at my writing, I try to work at my interviewing. There's certain things that that have my attention. Acting is down the list.
Is it not because it's the same thing as what you say about the mic? It's also it's a cover to say, well, that's not me, because maybe acting makes you feel a bit exposed.
I withdraw within myself automatically. So I did an audition with somebody, Kimberly Stark, years ago. Yeah. And I knew her. So literally the first 5 minutes, we just chatted and caught up. And I'm talking maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, when she had Contractors.
So actually... just after she left Contractors to go to Generations.
Oh, yes.
Because when I came to Joburg, 99, 2000, everybody was joining agencies.
Sure.
So I ended up at Contractors. Yes. And went to a bunch of auditions, didn't get anything. Sure. And then Kimberly says, come for audition for Generations, small part. And we chatted. And then she's like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. And we got up and I stood in front of the camera. And I think we did it, and I could see in her face, like we did it 3-4 times. Oh, and then her feedback to the agency was, I was fine until the camera came on. And then she's like, she could physically see me go into myself.
Yeah.
And later on, years later, I auditioned for Generations.
Yeah.
One of the actors of Generations who we both know said, there's a role here I think you'd be good for because she knew me and my personality. And I went and auditioned. She actually left set to come and go through lines with me. And then we did the audition. We did a couple of takes. And I could see, but I knew. Like by then I was comfortable with the fact that, you know what? This is perhaps not for me. Because the whole don't act, just be makes zero.
Sure.
I understand it emotionally. I understand it when you do it. But for me to apply that to myself, I'm like, I'm trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
And later on, when I got a call from this friend and she was hesitant on the phone, I was like, listen, don't worry.
Yeah.
I get it. I was bad. And she was like, yeah, but when you do interviews,
you're amazing.
You're cool. You're relaxed. I'm like,
yourself.
That's me.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
As long as, when I went to Destiny Man, I went, okay, what's the company? What are the things I can talk about and the things I can't talk about? Once I'm clear on that, I just talk.
Yeah.
I stopped preparing for interviews. In the beginning, I used to do that whole, prepare this question. I don't prepare. I go and I sit down. I'm like, I know what I know. I know what I don't know. I know what I'm willing to share and I know what I'm not willing to share. So if I'm not willing to share it, I won't. You can't force me. Right?
That's so amazing because the camera skill, it's called camera technique. Even actors struggle with it. When I came up to do Generations, I struggled and I could see the director getting frustrated with me because I'll be acting with you here, the camera's here. We didn't learn this at drama school. All we knew was theater. We wanted to be in the next Dr. Faustus and all these amazing plays and stuff. And no one ever thought of maybe asking the lecturers, can we get someone maybe who's in the TV field to come and talk to us, which is what happens a lot now. You'll see like at National School of the Arts, they'll get someone from the industry, whether a filmmaker or a director or an actor coming, because it does something to say, oh, I wasn't even thinking of that. Because it's so important when you're in the field. Because and no one's got time. In the field, they just think, you're bad.
Yeah.
And Dukucho is not bad. He just doesn't know the camera technique, right? So I was struggling. Here's a whole drama student. I'm performing and the camera, and I kept on doing this, like looking at the camera. and he was like, what are you looking at? I'm dying to say, the camera, because it's here. He's like, you're not reading the news? Because I felt like, how? The camera is like another person. Why are we leaving this person out? So let's bring them into the conversation, So now you have to be taught, forget the camera. It's not even there. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I see these guys,
and they're all around.
They're all there.
And the sound.
Yeah, listen,
there's a
12 people.
Boom over your head.
Over your head, and it's right here.
Walking around in the background.
You have to act like you can't see any of that. So imagine now when I came back from Yizo, and then they said, okay, no, we want you to come back to Generations. We've decided we're going to give you a twin. I was like, how the flip is that going to work? Then they told me we're introducing this technique called the split screen, and we think you'll be brilliant for it. So it's not just going to be yourself as Zolega, the character you came up for. We're introducing your twin sister, Zinzi. That's now technology at its best. So you have to, I'll shoot the whole Zinzi or Zolega part with an earpiece. And then when we reverse and I'm standing on the other side and my double is here and I'm talking to, now I'm hearing myself back, as Zolega. I can't keep on looking up. When you show that you can hear someone speaking into your ear? Can't. So then your mind adjusts. So it's all just training, whether it's camera technique or split screen technique in terms of the earpiece, acting with an earpiece. Because I could see even my other actor cast members who had to be in a scene with me, and because I'm used to it, I know I'm looking here now. because it was just Zolega speaking, and then I say my line, and the other person is like, what the flip is going on? How do I know who to look at? So as long as you know your lines, and then the technicalities, you can now maneuver around the technical part, because as long as you're comfortable with your lines, and then so once maybe if the director is going to help you and say, I'll just point that it's Zolega speaking. So that means, and because this one has just said their line, so once they point here, that means it's Zinzi who's not here at the moment, because now she's done. And now that means when we point to you, it's you. Right?
I like the way how you explain that as such a simple and easy thing, right?
Yes.
Meanwhile, you've gone and because you've basically compartmentalized.
Yeah.
You've compartmentalized your whole.
Yeah.
Because there's your whole that's sitting here in front of you.
Yeah.
So there's that person, and then there are these two characters.
Yeah.
Who are twins, but who are not star, and they're different people. And you're now saying, no, so I just did this one, and then I turned around and I just did this one.
Yeah.
But you're having to, even if you're doing this set of lines, if you're shooting that scene, I'm assuming you're doing this set of lines, and then you go and you change, and then you come and you stand here. So literally you're jumping between three people.
Yes. Yourself
in
and
this
these
moment.
two characters. Yeah. When I'm tired, they would even say, Sir, you just spoke with the Zinzi voice. And I'm like, oh, flip, I'm dressed as Zolega. Because now my mind is, I'm just like, hey, man, I'm just getting through. Because if I've introduced Zolega, which was the first character I ever was known for on Generations, I can't suddenly change how she speaks. So I was like, okay, I've made her soft and slow because she's all into massages and all these things. We always assume these Zen people have this gentle way of speaking because they're always in a spa, right? And then Zinzi is like, she speaks like that. She smokes. She's with the guys. So I made her very pacey. So that's a bit more of who I am in terms of, because I speak very fast. So Lega was literally, I had to just slow her down because everything that's like against who I am, those are all learned techniques, all learned. So with more time, with you assuming, going back to you saying, well, I know I'm bad, because you might be surprised. Once you learn the technicalities of this, then you let go, because you just struggled with letting go of
absolutely.
Kujo. So in everything, because some actors would even say, but I watch myself when I'm performing and I feel so stupid. That means you're not letting go.
Yeah.
Because we all feel stupid. If you really had to look at acting, to be like, what are we doing? Busy acting like you're angry when you're not. You're like, what's going on? What the fuck is this? And that's not, and you're just like, thank you. Guys, love you all. Take care. Be good. God bless you.
I agree, because as a personality, I am wired a particular way, and I'm wired quite tight.
Sure.
Like I said, I probably deep down inside, somewhere, there's a decent enough actor.
Yes.
But I was just like, okay, the list of things that I need to do or that I'm looking to do in my life. I don't, if something happened where all of a sudden I was doing it, okay, great. Yeah. But I'm not going to sit and go, oh, I didn't find find my inner De Niro or something. Like, I didn't find my inner Denzel.
Yes,
like,
man.
If there's an inner Denzel, well, he wasn't supposed to be in the world.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
I would still encourage you, though, just for fun now, because it's not something that's that you have to do, but just for fun. Just market theatre Saturday classes, just for fun. You'll be shocked. And now with no pressure, you're not thinking of auditions. You're just going to express yourself and going for those beautiful. And I wish we had even more. Because at the moment when people ask me about acting classes, I always say, okay, I know the Market Theatre. I know the Joburg Theatre also has like an academy, a program. And then I know certain actors who are like one-on-one acting coaches. Like your Camilla, she used to be on Generations. She played Anne Devereaux, the baddie with that French. Remember, she had that French, brilliant acting coach. If maybe you're shy and you just want to work with someone one-on-one.
I did lessons. I did about 4 lessons.
With who?
With David Dennis.
Oh, he's
many years ago.
yeah.
But and I actually used it for years afterwards. We started off just on breathing.
Yeah, there we go.
We started off just on breathing, and then I discovered around that time that the way I breathe is too shallow, just naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember around that time, like I was diagnosed as being asthmatic. And then I realized actually it wasn't that. I just wasn't breathing deep enough. So it always looked like I was out of breath. So
See?
I still have...
Apply that. I'm sure you apply that now.
I still have the foolscap papers that he had written the stuff on somewhere tucked away in my house. But so I'm a fan of the idea of hobbies. And I talk about it often.
Absolutely.
You may just have added another one to my list of things that I'd want to try. Because like you're saying, just doing it just to do it.
Just to do it with no pressure of thinking, if I don't get it, that's it, because this is all I do. It's all I wanted to just do it, and you'll be shocked.
It's like going and learning how to paint.
Yeah.
Not to make paintings, but just
learning how to paint.
For the process.
And another thing that but this is for people who are like hardcore in corporate, like your CEOs and stuff, or even government officials as well. Can you imagine if they just did some acting classes in terms of projection, in terms of keeping your audience? Because we do this with our kids, right? Mommy, I'm giving an unprepared speech. The first thing you say, Papa, so just make sure there's focus, you eye contact with your class, you greet your teacher, you greet your classmates, and you go straight into it. Short and sweet, and you've done your research, but we give them so much information in terms of public speaking. But in real life, when we're now in these public positions, we forget all these things that we did as young people.
And it's also about finding the techniques for you.
The techniques.
So the thing that's where poetry helped me.
Absolutely.
In terms of, the people who say, see the audience is naked, and I'm like, that just doesn't work,
that's
right?
Weird.
Like that's just distracting me. Now
I'm like, why?
But I very early found that in the room, there's always one person that's with me.
Absolutely.
And so literally I'll scan the room, but I'll go left to right, but every time I move, I come back to that person because it's like, okay, that one person, like, if nobody else is getting it, that one person somehow is with me.
Yeah.
I can do no wrong. So that's that's my blankie. That's my little, comfort space.
I love that.
And it took me a couple of times, but I still do that. When I'm speaking, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I always find the person who's got my back as opposed to waiting to see what I'm going to do.
Sure.
And then also learning, with pitch, with tempo, with volume.
Sure.
When people are starting to drift off, how to bring them back, speak quicker, speak slower. And like you're saying, that's valuable for anyone.
Yeah.
Especially politicians.
Yeah, especially. Because I used to watch like Obama's speeches. But like, I don't know if he's working with like an artist or an actor or a coach or something. But if he is, they're doing a brilliant job.
No, he probably did.
Right?
The Americans, the Americans.
Yeah, but he would really keep people there. And then you throw in a bit of just humor, not forced, or just your own little ad-libs in terms of who you are, and talk about yourself. Oh, he'll speak about his daughters, as the girls this morning when we're having breakfast. Then suddenly he's relatable. He has breakfast with his kids. Yeah. Just that one line, whether it was strategic or not, but hey, man, it made us go, oh, this guy is a dad, and he's a father of girls, and he's a husband. He'll talk about his wife, small things like that. So I always just say, if our public figures applied those techniques,
absolutely,
because that's all people want, to just relate to who you are.
Yeah.
So there's a business gap for actors, just like, I'm just going to teach politicians.
But look, I mean, I think it's something that I've kind of toyed with quite a few times. there's a value in storytelling across the board, regardless of space, in understanding how to tell stories, in understanding where stories are. And for me, stories are everywhere. But whether it's in corporate, whether it's in public sector, whether it's in schools, I mean, we've talked about all these spaces, understanding how story can actually help you carry certain things further forward. I mean, in corporate, everybody talks about authenticity. Like, for me, if you want to be seen to be authentic, then be authentic. How are you authentic? You tell your stories.
Sure.
You know, it's a very simple thing. And there's an opportunity for people who have interacted with the different spaces, whether it's actors, etc. And I don't think we do it, like I think we're still getting there in South Africa on the continent. The one thing I'll give the Americans that they're good at is being able to take something and package it in such a way. So, you know, doing storytelling for business and being able to go in and talk about storytelling for business or leadership, communications, what you learned at school and what you've learned through practicing your craft is extremely valuable for those people. But a lot of us are still kind of getting to the stage where we can go, okay, how do I take this from this space and repackage it for it to make sense in that space?
Absolutely.
So where are you now? This is my last question. Where's Tan now in terms of just everything?
Everything. We're about to start Shaga Ilembe again, Shaga Ilembe 2. Going back there, I've been pitching various concepts to various streamers. So I'm there. I'm at the, hey, just waiting for that response, but more on the creating side. Yeah, creating side.
And so you've got what? University, high school, starting high school. Your children.
Oh, children, yes. Starting high school, finishing high school, and university.
This is a conversation I have with my wife, although I'm a step behind you. So I was talking to a good friend recently. I said it was my last question, but we'll close with this.
Me and you never finish.
So I was talking to a friend and he was telling me how his last child is now, I think, finishing high school. And he and his wife are now trying to figure out them again.
Man.
Because the last one is about to leave. And just kind of trying to figure out, he's like they've had to also just kind of figure out.
And find each other again.
Find each other again, however many years down the line. Because you're not the same people.
Guys.
Like, I mean, I think you guys are what, on 22, 23 years?
At the end of this year, we'll be 23.
Whereas
and
for me,
dated before.
So for me, this year is 22.
Imagine.
And I was thinking about it the other day. That's just under half my life.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Just under half. Under half your entire life. Do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I think about now. I'm thinking, okay, cool. So Zanda, literally, if she's doing grade 8, she's nearly done, and that's it. Josi wants to go overseas. So we'll just have one person who wants to go to boarding school, and I'm begging her. I'm like, not you, I'm holding on to you for dear life. Because I was like, Zanda, I had to negotiate with her. You're literally the last baby or the last kid in this house.
Because if she goes to boarding school, all of a sudden you're confronted with, okay, so
Tony earlier than I
it's just the two of us now. At least for the term.
Yeah.
Maybe for like on holidays, but for the term, it's like, it's just the two of us.
Tony and I yesterday went to a boxing class because I've been so bad with gym, menopause. You won't understand what a female goes through, Kujo.
I don't understand it, but I see it in my house as well.
And then, for some reason, we're weird. We're like, oh, this thing is here. I am not going to... and we just become defiant for whatever reason. So goodness knows why I stopped going to gym. But then I went to boxing with Tony. It felt so good. It was like, wow, this was Tony and I before the kids. We always discover new gyms. If there's a program happening we'll drive, because there was no panicking about, flip, the baby has to be dropped off. It was just, so I was like, wow, this was us. you know? So I think it's so, so important. 2 of my friends as well, empty nest right now, and they are like enjoying their lives like nobody's business. I'm like, you guys are like kids and just date. She's like, exactly what it is. Because we've got time. We even discuss what we're going to eat. Things that she says we stop doing that maybe with baby. They have 3 boys. But it's like, oh, for some reason, you just end up eating what's there. Or, you know, it's no more that thing of like, hey, should I grab something? Or, you know, do you feel like chops? Or, you know, the way it used to be.
Because it's always structured around, around the children. Like,
our guys know.
Whatever's going to happen for supper, it's what the children are comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because I remember early days where the children had their food and then we had our food.
Imagine.
But when I was so I always say this to men. If you get married, you don't put on weight, there's something wrong. Because for me, when I got married, all of a sudden I'm having consistent food. Like before that,
right?
it's not even the food that it was or whatever. It's just like consistently, I was eating. Like I was having at least lunch and supper.
Yeah.
Even if I was at work, I had lunch.
Yes.
Like I had something to take with me, right? Then when I got to Destiny Man, especially, you go into a lot of events. And in the beginning, it's like, no, I don't eat when I'm out. I'll eat when I get home.
Exactly.
Because there'll be questions around, where did you eat?
Why don't you?
After kids, I realized that if I didn't eat out, I created more work. Like I was told, it's like the children eat specific things.
I know.
If you're coming home, then we have to make food specifically for you.
Yeah, and you are at a function. Why?
So I used to, the canapes.
Yes.
I would have a full meal on the canapes. And people are like, aren't you worried when you get home? Like, hey, Chief, I'm actually making my life easier when I get home.
Yeah, though. I think it's so important because and I know if Tony was here, he'd be like, Star, easy, because I was always like, but why shouldn't the kids be first? He's like, the kids will leave. You know, I was always that person about the kids, this, the kids, that. Tony was like, the kids they'll leave in no time. And look now what's happening. So I think it's so important to just really, and it's okay to discover each other again. Because you've really grown. You know, things that I loved then, maybe they're just not as available, going to the baseline and all those things. And maybe that Friday night every day in Melville, every Friday. But I love different things now. Now I love going to attend. There's an open lecture. There's an open lecture on Isandlwane, on the Kings of KwaZulu or whatever, you know. And in a way, I'm revisiting who I've always been in terms of really just loving the academic world and stuff. But now I can access it online, include Tony if he is interested, and he'll be like, oh, what are they talking about? Oh, no, maybe I'm not interested. Same goes for him. And I think the main thing is not lose yourself. Because once you've lost too much of yourself, and then now suddenly it's just you and your partner, and you discover that, flip, I don't even know who I am. And now suddenly I have to deal with this person. So I think the main thing is, which I think Tony and I don't know if we did it deliberately or not, but we've always been we've stuck to our own things in terms of what we like. The whole fashion world, going to Fashion Week, Tony will be like, literally, dude, I'll drop you at the red carpet if it needs be, but don't ask me to go there. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's not his vibe. Tony wants to go to boxing and watch like real boxing. I'm just like, why are they beating each other up? Why? Do they know each other that? You know? But we've really just maintained our worlds in terms of what we like. And then we have our world, the 2 of us, because we're still we're like best friends, but we still really have our own friends, our own things that we like to do. And then we meet up.
On that note, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. This was awesome, man.
The Listen to Your Footsteps podcast is produced by Zebra Culture. If you have ideas of what we can do better, people you'd like us to have a conversation with, or would just like to share a thought, you can email me on info@zebraculture.com. To check out past episodes, go to kojobuffer.com/podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. If you'd like to get a copy of the book, Listen to Your Footsteps, check out kojobafo.com/book. There are details on the various spaces it's available at. I'd also appreciate it if you could leave a review or comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, there's the Zebra Culture by Kgoroge newsletter, where on a weekly basis, I share a curated list of articles, playlists, videos, etc. that have caught my attention. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.